So I've no idea if Ryan's going to be here or not. So Ryan has been chairing this meeting for a while, although he hasn't been here for a couple of weeks. So I'm happy to kind of act as chair as he's not here, as I did that job a little while ago. Everyone's okay with that?
Perfect.
Cool. Hopefully you all got access to the shared document. I've put my name down. I see a couple of you put your names down as well. We just kind of, everyone should have update access to that. I put something down on the agenda, but we're there's no problem talking about anything else. So I think some of you haven't been to this group before. This group is kind of an interesting one because I don't think it's had a huge amount of focus. There's been different people looking at different aspects of security tooling. So, I'm not sure we've managed to come up with a huge number of deliverables. But one of the deliverables we were talking about a while ago is the web application definition, which I suggested and then didn't have enough time to spend on it, I'm afraid. However, it was Paul got in touch and said he was interested, and so I invited him along because I thought it'd be a really good time to talk about it. So Paul, you're interested?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, where should I start? Maybe a few sentences about me, so that you just roughly know my background. So I'm a computer scientist by education. I've been doing security research since 2007, something like that. I work for Robert Bosch. It's a might be even the largest tier 1 automotive supplier. It's a German company, and I work for the corporate research division, where I'm responsible for a group doing research on distributed systems, which security is obviously part of, and also responsible for a research program on security, privacy, and certain safety aspects. And of course, we are very much into, very interested in these security tooling topics. We deal with various, let's say, layers, kind of, because we have a lot of embedded products. But since, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, something like that, all these classic IT technologies, basically, when you start connecting your embedded products to the cloud and whatnot, then of course you also have the other side of the story. So web security is basically also something that we are looking into. But what kind of intrigued me in the approach that you sketched out in this kind of in the GitHub repository is that you can probably also use this kind of approach, for example, to enable easy fuzzing of embedded software and things like that, because anywhere where you need to attach these dynamic application security testing tools, you always have the problem that you have to onboard the projects, and when you have hundreds of projects, it's really hard. So this is what intrigued me in what I saw there.
Great, thank you. So I'll give a little bit of background for this. I mean, when we started the working group, it was very much, there were different, I wasn't here at the very beginning, but very early on, it became clear that people were looking at things from different points of view. We had static analysis, we had fuzzing, and I came in on this kind of dynamic analysis side. Static analysis has the easier time of things with this. If you've got a repo, you can find the source code, you can do whatever you want. Obviously with the dynamic analysis and the fuzzing, it's harder. We need something that's running, and to get to something that's running from a repo is virtually impossible in an automated way. So that's why this came about. I'm the project lead for the OWASP attack proxy, which is why I'm very keen on the dynamic side. And so this is something I thought would be useful. Then a couple of people from Microsoft got involved. I sent an email to one of them, which CC'd yourself. So yeah, I just didn't have time to push it forward, and there didn't seem to be enough other interest. But I'm still very keen on the idea, and I like, so I had an initial definition, and then I think it was Mark pushed through a 1.1 definition. I really like the idea of getting to a stage where we have a POC. So actually having a definition and a POC, maybe something like a GitHub action that doesn't actually do anything, but will actually, we can show actually starts up a few example services. And then we could go from, then I think that's something we could actually start making, making something of, telling people about, and getting more feedback.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of because I'm not so well familiar with the DAS side of web security. So what kind of tools do you have in mind for
So well, the only tool I've got in mind is the Orsted attack proxy, because I'm the project lead. So Zap is a web scanner. We've been claiming it's the most popular web scanner in the world for some time, and no one's disagreed with me, so it must be true. So basically, it attacks web applications. So if you've got web protocols, I mean HTTP, HTTPS, but WebSockets as well, then Zap can attack it. With Dynamics web scanning, the first problem is accessing your application and then exploring it. The attacking is one of the easier parts. There are lots of, there's lots of potential here, particularly once you get into things like authentication. So defining what authentication is available, how to handle it. But I didn't want to go down that route early on, because we just make something so complicated that no one would use. But I like the idea of having the simplest definition that's actually useful, that allows us to stand something up and then start doing stuff with it. Talking to the fuzzing guys, fuzzing people, I understand that you often need entry points and things like that in a similar way to we need with web application scanning. So there's this is very much an initial, let's see if we can get something up and then go from there. With web application scanning, there are a whole load of deliberately vulnerable applications. So there's another OWASP project called the Dvdwa, deliberately vulnerable web applications. I'm one of the project leaders on that as well. So we've got a long list of projects of applications we know about. Quite a few of those are containerized. I want to be able to stand them up very easily and attack them. And I think we have a set of example test applications that we could do this with. It's just a question of agreeing on a good minimum set, working out a good POC where we can actually get something like a GitHub action to stand anything up. You just point it at a repo, it's got all these definitions, it brings something up, and then other tools like Zap or whatever can start doing their thing against it.
Okay, cool. I used Zap in the past to play around with cookies and authentication cookies and stuff like that, but I was not aware that it actually can also kind of fuzz or say scan the web applications on its own. That's cool. Okay. Then I think that it makes sense to kind of to start there. So I don't know, can you recommend then also from these vulnerable applications some kind of a set of samples to look into?
Yeah, I mean, we've got let me find, so you've got access to the shared document. I mean, you probably won't be able to see it very well, but let me just, somewhere I should have a link to. So I'll put a link in the document. So it's not the prettiest page you'll ever see, but there are a set of tabs near the top. And so we've got things like mobile applications offline, online. There's a VM/ISO-ISO, but we're thinking of changing that to be containerized, because things like Docker and stuff are particularly useful, and quite a few of us want to, we want to know what target applications are containerized rather than whether particularly specifically VMs or anything. So that's a pretty good start. There's quite a few things there.
Okay, nice.
And I mean, some of these are some of the particularly, the offline ones, either, there's Budget Store, which is an ancient one which I created, but there's some other OWASP projects there as well. I know the project leads, so I think there won't be a problem in getting those projects to adopt a standard if we come up with something that's workable. So, and that's something where, I'll be happy to put in a pull request as long as it's not too difficult to get these things working and to put those in the relevant directories. Did you get a chance to look at the 1.1 definition?
Yeah.
Does it look useful to you?
Like I said, I'm not, really well familiar with the with web application. Say, well, conceptually yes, but not on the hands-on side.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know what would be your approach. Maybe look into these applications and then somehow try to see if it fits well. But I suppose that you already spent a good amount of time defining the 1.1 version.
So that, I defined the 1.0 and then the 1.1 got committed without any real review. So it would be kind of useful to get the folks from Microsoft involved again if they're still interested. So one option, I think, is if you, me, and anyone from Microsoft and anyone else who's interested, maybe try and have another call sometime. It doesn't have to be part of this working group meeting. We'll do it, the same as part of the working group, but just we can go off to one side, because otherwise I might be wasting the time of other people. But I didn't give the Microsoft people much notice either, as you've seen. But yeah, we can try and arrange. And if they're not interested, then I'm happy to kind of work with it, work on it with you, because I think it really needs somebody who wants to drive it forward. I like the idea and want it to happen, but it's not something I can spend a huge amount of my focus. But if it is moving forward, then I'm happy to help out.
Sounds good. So just out of curiosity, so basically these essentially key value pairs in the definition, are these kind of the settings that you would normally do by hand in ZAP, like the port number and things like that?
Yeah, so generally when the deliberately vulnerable apps I've played around with, usually they have a one-liner to start them up, but you can't tell from that one-liner easily. You can parse them for ports and things, but they don't always have them there. They don't, you often have paths as well. You certainly don't have, any authentication, any credentials in there that can be useful. So things like ports, definitely, typically we just need, for ZAP, we need a URL to get started. If we've got the URL with a port and the path, we're happy. But I think the folks from Microsoft said they were doing this, they already had something doing this, and these were things they found useful. And on that basis, they're like, yeah, sure, fine.
Okay, I understand.
So, if anyone's, I hadn't actually created something that works off this or off the previous definition. So it wasn't, if anyone comes along and says, this is useful, and great, cool, we'll put it in.
Sure. Okay, so the I don't know what would be your initial thought then how to start to do like a very first version of a POC based on one or more of these vulnerable applications, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's one application called Juice Shop from OWASP. It is a really good vulnerable application, and it's one that when I was at Mozilla, I ran a capture the flag event on it. The all hands went down very well, so it's really well maintained, and is pretty straightforward to start. So that would be a good one that people might want to actually use. I said Budget Store is one that I created years ago, so I've got full permissions for that. So if we want to mess around, and still gets quite a few pulls. We actually use it for some of our testing still, just because it's simple. So those two are very easy. It should be straightforward to. I said Budget. I've got full access to that. I can do what I like. But Juice Shop, if we got to come up with something sensible, and I'm sure I'll be able to persuade Bjorn, the project leader, to adopt something, particularly if we give him a pull request.
Mm-hmm. Can you put the link to this one also into the document?
Sorry, the Juice Shop, or
yeah,
sure.
So whichever, or the two that you mentioned.
Yeah, will do.
Perfect. And then I suppose I mean just as a kind of very quick thought, so what would be the way to actually give Zap all these these arguments? So I'm not familiar so much with the tool. Is there a way to kind of pass it, to call it on the command line and pass it all the arguments, or?
Sure. So the plan here was that we would have this this file, the web application definition, and that would live in the target applications. So something like Juice Shop would have a .config/webapp.yaml file. Then it's up to the tool authors to actually make use of that. So what I was thinking of was if we could create a very simple GitHub action or equivalent, which took this and all it did was started and stopped the target application, then that would be a pretty good start. Then what we can do is I would be able to convert that into something where we pass the relevant stuff to Zap very easily. I like the idea of a completely tool independent POC where you just go, look, we bring it up, maybe we do a curl request to the target application to prove it actually works.
Okay.
And so yeah, test action, bring it up, wait for however long it takes, or loop making curl requests until it comes up, go, okay, yep, it's done, close it down, action's completed. Then what I can do is I could take that and I can do all the mangling to get into Zap. So that's that, and we were thinking each tool author would then go, okay, I want to support this standard. It's look, I think it's a chance it'll take off. So we have something like we have some GitHub actions for Zap. So one of the things, we have to specify quite a few different. Let me find an example. So there's the GitHub Marketplace action for the Zap baseline scan. So this is a relatively quick scan because we're just spidering, we're not doing any attacking. We've got other ones on there, full scan and API scan as well. But you've got to put in quite a few different parameters. Quite a few of them are optional, but the idea is, with something like this, you wouldn't actually need to put any parameters in at all. You would just run this action or a different action from your repo, and the action will go, okay, it's got one of these files, I can pull the information out and go from there.
Okay, perfect. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Okay, I now understand this being tool agnostic. That's great.
And I think the idea was because we were really initially looking at trying to make open source projects as secure as possible. So the idea is we would then try and encourage open source projects to adopt this, and maybe would kind of pick on some, try and find some well-known projects and actually put pull requests into them to support this standard, and then write something which basically on a schedule, just keeps on going through, looping through all the projects we can find that support this, and then running a set of tools against them, and then reporting things as appropriate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, sounds good. All right, then yeah, I would look into these links that you put into the document and see what I can come up with.
Great, and I'll follow up on that email thread, see if the Microsoft folks are still interested. Out of interest, is anyone else on this call remotely interested in what we're talking about, or are you here for something else?
No, I'm actually, it's very interesting. The timing is a bit tricky for me, just showering the kids, but it's my first time here as well, but I'll look at the document and I'll try to catch up, and if I have any question, I'll just do that by text after the meeting.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat here. I think this is really interesting. I'm trying to catch up because Windriver just joined OpenSSF a couple of months back here, and trying to get back engaged with the different working groups and everything. So just trying to come up to speed, but any security tooling is always a good thing, right?
Excellent, great. So what if it looks like this is actually getting some traction, then we can certainly start talking about it more amongst our various contacts and organizations. Hopefully I can get more interest out of OWASP as well. So we have these meetings every couple of weeks. I don't think anything's going to happen too quickly, but if everyone tries to have a look at this stuff, then we can have another chat in a couple of weeks' time, and I'll see if I can get anyone else interested as well.
Are we using some kind of Slack channel or something like that? I mean, if we want to communicate, then like in a synchronous manner, then email is probably a bit tricky.
Yeah, there is a Slack in the top of the document, slack.openssf.org. I haven't actually logged in for a little while, so I hope to do that.
Oh yeah, okay, then we can use this one. Perfect.
Yeah. So is there anything else, so not associated with the web application definition, that anyone would like to chat about? So Jen, was there anything you wanted to contribute, or anything you'd like to know about the working group? Or
nothing at the moment pertaining specifically to this group. If you do decide that you want the recordings from this meeting to go up on YouTube, let me know. If there's anything administratively that you need assistance with, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll pop my email in chat, and maybe just you may have seen on the general sort of announcements email list and in Slack that we're taking self-nominations for the TAC and the security community individual representative for the board. And if you feel like you're an eligible voter, that you've contributed and want to participate in that election, there are links to forms in the general channel on OpenSSF Slack to fill out. So maybe just a general PSA on that. But
does anyone have any objections to this meeting going on to this recording of this meeting going on to YouTube?
Nope.
Well, in that case, Jen, I think we're all happy for it to be published.
okay, great. I will do that. I will go ahead, and if there isn't a playlist for this work group on the OpenSSF YouTube channel already, I'll create one, and then we'll get in a good routine here of getting these posted. So
Great.
happy to help out. Great. Thank you all.
That'd be very useful. Right. Well, if there's nothing else anyone wants to chat about now, then
Maybe just a quick question.
sure.
Sorry. What are the initials for TAC? What do they represent? TAC?
Oh, yes, the Technical Advisory Council. So it's the
Awesome.
the
Cool.
technical group. Yeah,
Yeah, I only saw the initials in every document. I couldn't find document as the full.
yes. So I know it's
cool.
TAC and then TSC, right, are kind of the two technical steering committee. Yeah, but OpenSSF, the charter calls out Technical Advisory Council. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for anyone else? Well, in that case, thank you all for joining us, and hopefully see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.